the construction site of a future parking lot, workers have unearthed another piece of Spain's past. Much of the city of Barcelona, in the northeastern part of this European country, used to be underwater. That started changing in the Middle Ages when artificial piers were built and natural processes lowered water levels in the area. So a 15th century shipwreck, for instance, that would have once been 16 feet below the water's surface has reappeared after a little digging. And it's so well preserved that it's giving archaeologists a rare look at how Mediterranean vessels were built hundreds of years ago. Researchers have to continually soak the wood day and night to keep it from drying out and decaying. The plan is to take it apart one piece at a time so it can be moved to a research facility and carefully studied. The ship was more than 30 feet long, about 10 feet wide, and centuries after it went under the waves, the wreckage is tasting the air and whispering stories once again. Our first show of the new week continues with a significant development concerning the war in Ukraine. I'm Carl Azuz, and this is The World from A to Z. Full-scale conflict broke out in Ukraine when neighboring Russia invaded the country in 2022. No one knows how many people have died since then. Experts say reliable info is hard to come by, and organizations have struggled to keep track of military and civilian deaths. However, it's been estimated that as many as 1 million lives have been lost in the war, and Newsweek reports these casualties will affect both Ukraine and Russia for years. Some fast-moving events might impact the course of the conflict. Over the weekend, Russian President Vladimir Putin called for direct peace talks with Ukraine, meetings that would take place this Thursday in the nation of Turkey. Previously, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said he wants a ceasefire first, that it would be necessary for diplomatic negotiations to take place between his country and Russia. And previously, Russia has said that before there's a ceasefire, Western nations would need to quit sending military aid to Ukraine. But after the Russian leader called for direct talks Saturday and said they'd be the first step toward lasting peace, U.S. President Donald Trump said Ukraine should agree to the meeting immediately, and then the Ukrainian leader did, saying he still hoped a ceasefire would occur before Thursday's meeting. We don't know how the meeting's going to go if it actually happens. President Trump says it'll determine if a peace deal is possible, and that if it's not, it'll help the U.S. and European leaders plan for the future. The last time Russia and Ukraine held direct talks like this was shortly after Russia's invasion more than 3 years ago.
From end-of-semester projects to finals, tests, and quizzes, this time of year can feel a little overwhelming.
For a lot of kids, it can feel immensely stressful.
Licensed therapist Jody Baumstein with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta says academic anxiety can have some surprising signs in students. They may start to procrastinate in the morning, try to miss the bus. They may skip class, talk back to teachers, or they may not be able to complete assignments. Baumstein says these signs may seem like behavioral issues, but that's not always the case.
We really want to get curious about what they're communicating and make sure we're getting to the root, because for some kids, it's actually anxiety.
That starts with opening up a dialogue, Baumstein says, to ask open-ended questions and listen to understand, not just to respond. Then validate and normalize what they're going through and focus on the effort they've put into schoolwork all year, not just the outcome.
If they're worried that they might not get that perfect grade, they're going to be feeling really intense pressure.
And if a child seems to really be struggling, Baumstein says reach out for help.
They're not able to go to school. They can't sleep. They're no longer engaging in activities they used to enjoy. They're withdrawing from their friends. They're not talking. They're tearful. These are signs you really want to pay attention to. And we don't want to wait until it's bubbled up to a point of crisis.
I'm Mandy Gaither.
On this date in world history. A street scene of a parade on May 12, 1903. Motion pictures had been around for years at this point, but this one's historic because of who's in it. President Teddy Roosevelt was passing through San Francisco, and this is one of the first times a U.S. leader was captured on film while working. 99 years later, on this date in 2002, another American leader, then former President Jimmy Carter, made a trip to Cuba and visited Cuban leader Fidel Castro. It was the first time since Castro led Cuba's communist revolution in the 1950s that any American president, former or current, had visited the island nation. And this was the date in 2008 when the Sichuan earthquake struck southwestern China. It caused tremendous damage, destroying entire towns and claiming tens of thousands of lives. Different measures put the tremor's magnitude at 7.9 or 8.0. Regardless of whether that classifies it as a major or great earthquake, it was catastrophic.
Word of knowledge. What is the largest Native American reservation in the United States? Osage Reservation, Navajo Nation, Santa Clara Pueblo, Fort Apache Reservation. In terms of land and population, the nation's largest Indian reservation is Navajo Nation. It spans across 3 western states.
Crews recently finished running power to this couple's home, out on the Navajo Reservation in Utah.
Around this area, nobody has electricity for as long as I can remember.
Now, the family can use more than one appliance at a time, and Ricky Gillis doesn't have to worry about his CPAP machine not working, or his heart monitor failing to send information to doctors 400 miles away. All this thanks to a program called Up Navajo, which is hooking up Native American homes to the electric grid. It reminds us of the Rural Electrification Act of 1936. The REA was part of Franklin D. Roosevelt's alphabet soup of New Deal programs, meant to help America get back on its feet after the Great Depression. Those programs put unemployed people to work on everything from roads to parks to hospitals, schools, bridges, dams, and power lines. 90% of rural America was without electricity before the REA. That program allowed farmers to group together in co-ops to take advantage of low-cost loans to string power lines. By the 1950s, almost all farms in America had electricity. Quite a turnaround for rural Americans, but for rural Native Americans, not so much. The United States' largest reservation covers parts of 3 states and has a population of 165,000, but a third of homes there still have no power lines. Since 2019, Up Navajo has been using both government and private funding to fix this. Power companies across the states send crews to extend lines and connect homes. So far, the project has hooked up close to 900 homes. Each one takes time and is expensive. It's estimated that it will take almost $500 million to connect the remaining 10,400 homes on this reservation alone. The land is rugged and the distances are vast, and drilling into hard ground to install a power pole can take hours. It sounds daunting, but at least this family says it's worth the wait.
There's probably a lot of people that live like that around this reservation where they really need electric.
Slowly but surely, Up Navajo and other efforts are plugging away at the problem.
Colorado became a state 100 years after the Declaration of Independence was signed. That's why it's called the Centennial State. And that's where Mr. Williamson's class is watching from Drake Middle School. The Dragons are in the city of Arvada. In the mountain state of West Virginia, you'll find Hurricane High School. Miss Hull's class is there in the city of Hurricane. And from Miami, Florida, a warm welcome to Mr. Ramsauer's and Mr. Diaz's classes. North Miami Beach Senior High School is the home of the Chargers. Here's one good reason why groundhogs may not be the best prognosticators of weather. How can you see your shadow when you can't see past your morning cup of coffee? This isn't Punxsutawney Phil, though it was wandering the streets of his home state of Pennsylvania, and the problem was solved pretty easily by the head of a local school who quickly commandeered the cup, turning the lights back on for the listless whistle pig and sending it scampering somewhere else. Groundhog? More like a groundhog, if you know what I'm saying. You can't cough eat on a cup and expect to make a rodent in your day without the forecast being extended night. Oh sure, the varmint marmot might have whistle pigged for help, but no matter the weather, you can't see what's up, woodchuck, when you've spent all your Starbucks like a caffeine and kept the lid on it without spilling the beans. I'm Carl Azuz. Thank you for watching The World from A to Z. You mean the world to me.